Topic 1: Environmental Impact Assessment or EIA System. Introduction. An environmental impact assessment system is a formal process to predict, evaluate, and mitigate the environmental effects of proposed projects before they happen. Ensuring environmental factors guide decisions for sustainable development, involving stages like scoping, public consultation, impact prediction, mitigation planning, and monitoring. Body. The Environmental Impact Assessment System serves as a crucial tool for sustainable development, providing a structured framework for evaluating the potential environmental impacts of proposed projects. The process begins with scoping, which involves identifying the relevant environmental factors that need to be considered. This stage is critical for ensuring that this assessment focuses on the most significant impacts, those promoting efficiency and relevancy in the analysis. Following scoping, the EIA process emphasizes public consultation, giving stakeholders, especially affected communities, a platform to voice their concerns and suggestions. In conclusion, the Environmental Impact Assessment System in the Philippines, encapsulated within the Philippine EIS system, plays a critical role in ensuring that environmental considerations are integrated into project planning and decision-making processes by facilitating thorough evaluation before project commence. The EIA system helps mitigate potential environmental damage, promoting sustainable development, and protecting the country's rich natural resources.
Introduction. The introduction established the context, purpose, and legal basis for the SEA. Purpose and rationale. The SEA is conducted to ensure that the proposed policy plan or program, regional development plan for a coastal area, considers its likely significant environmental effects at an early stage of decision making alongside economic and social factors. The body, it says, development assessment of alternatives. A crucial of the body is the analysis of various reasonable alternatives to the proposed plan, different spatial layouts for marine infrastructure, alternative energy sources, and to conclude, it reiterates the main environmental impacts and the performance of the proposed plan and its alternatives against the established environmental objectives and criteria.
Now, let's proceed to topic 3. Land use planning and zoning. Land use planning and zoning are essential tools in environmental management and sustainable development. They guide how land resources are allocated, developed, and conserved to meet the needs of present and future generations. With increasing population growth, urbanization, and environmental challenges, proper land use planning ensures that development is orderly, efficient, and environmentally sound. Zoning, as a component of land use planning, regulates the use of land by dividing areas into zones such as residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, and protected areas. Together, land use planning and zoning help reduce land conflicts, protect natural resources, and promote balanced economic growth while safeguarding public health and safety. Land use planning is a systematic process of evaluating land and water resources to determine their most appropriate use. It involves identifying suitable areas for housing, agriculture, industry, transportation, recreation, and conservation while considering environmental, social, and economic factors. Zoning is regulatory tool used by governments, particularly local government units or the LGUs, to control land development. It establishes specific rules and guidelines on how land within certain areas can be used. Now, there are 6 common zoning classifications. These are the residential zones, commercial zones, industrial zones, agricultural zones, institutional zones, and lastly, protected or conservation zones. Zoning ordinances help prevent incompatible land uses, such as locating factories near residential areas.
Disaster risk reduction and climate adaptation planning. Disaster risk reduction and climate adaptation planning are essential approach to minimizing the negative impact of natural hazards and climate change on communities, ecosystem, and economies. As climate-related disasters such as floods, typhoons, droughts, and heat waves become more frequent and intense, government and communities must adopt proactive strategies to reduce vulnerabilities and enhance resilience. DRR focus on preventing and reducing disaster risk, while climate adaptation planning aims to adjust system and practices to cope with changing climate conditions. Together, these approaches promote sustainable development and protect lives and livelihoods. Disaster risk reduction involve identifying hazard, assessing risk, and implementing measures to prevent or lessen the impact of disaster. These measures include early warning system, land use planning, infrastructure strengthening, community preparedness, and public awareness program. By integrating DRR into development planning, communities can reduce exposure to hazard and avoid action that increase risk such as building in flood prone areas. Climate adaptation planning, on the other hand, focus on long-term strategies that help communities adjust to climate variability and change. This include climate resilient infrastructure, sustainable water management, climate smart agriculture, and ecosystem based adaptation. Local government play a vital role in incorporating climate data into planning processes to ensure that development projects are resilient to future climate risks. Integrating DRR and climate adaptation planning is crucial because both address similar risks and vulnerabilities. An integrated approach ensures efficient use of resources, avoid duplication of efforts, and strengthens institutional coordination. Community participation is also essential as local knowledge help identify risk and develop appropriate adaptation strategies. When combined, there are in climate adaptation planning enhance resilience, reduce losses, and support sustainable and inclusive development. Disaster risk reduction and climate adaptation planning are vital in addressing the growing challenges posed by natural hazard and climate change. By proactively reducing risk and adapting to changing environment conditions, communities are protect lives, reduce economic losses, and ensure sustainable development. Integrating these approaches into policies and development plans strengthens resilience and prepares societies to face future uncertainties. Ultimately, effective DR and climate adaptation planning requires strong governance, community invel- involvement, and continuous learning to build safer and more resilient communities.
Environmental monitoring and evaluation. Environmental monitoring and evaluation are processes used to observe and assess the condition of our environment. This process help us detect problems such as pollution, deforestation, and climate change so that proper actions that can be taken. Environmental monitoring means collecting data about environmental condition over time. This includes measuring air quality, water quality, soil condition, noise levels, and biodiversity. For example, air monitoring measures harmful gases, while water monitoring checks for contaminants in rivers and lakes. Environmental evaluation, on the other hand, means analyzing the collected data to determine whether environmental policies and programs are effective. It helps answer questions like, are pollution levels decreasing? Are environmental laws working properly? Together, monitorings and evaluation help identify environmental problems, ensures compliance with laws, support sustainable development, and protect public health. In conclusion,
Environmental monitoring provides the data, and evaluations analyzes the data to guide decisions. Both are important tools in protecting the environmental and ensuring sustainability for future generations.
Environmental policy and regulation. Introduction. Environmental policy and regulation are frameworks established by government and organizations to manage human activities that affect the environment. These policies aims to protect natural resources such as reduce environmental pollution and promote sustainable development. They provide guidance on how individual communities and industries should act to minimize harm and to the environment. Policies address major environmental issues such as sir, air and water pollution, waste management, climate change, and biodiversity conservation. Regulations require business to comply with environmental standards such as limiting emission, treating wastewater, and practicing proper disposal of hazardous waste. Government through inspection and reporting system, while penalties and incentives are used to ensure adherence. Environmental regulation also encourage innovation by promoting cleaner techniques and sustainable practices. In conclusion, environmental policy and regulation are essential tools for protecting the environment and improving quality of life. Strong implementation and public participation are necessary to ensure that these policies are effective. By following environmental regulations, societies can achieve long-term sustainability and protect the environment for future generations.
Sustainable development planning is long-term approach to development that aims to meet the needs of the present generation without harming the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. This idea was strongly promoted by the United Nations through the concept of sustainable development and later strengthened by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The main goal of sustainable planning is to balance three their important pillars: economic growth, environmental protection, and social well-being. These three pillars are interconnected, meaning that development cannot focus only on profit or growth without considering environmental and social impacts. Sustainable development planning promotes responsible use of natural resources, inclusive economic growth, and improved equality of life.
Social impact assessment. Social impact assessment is a process used to identify, analyze, and manage the social effect of projects, policies, or programs on communities. Purpose of social impact assessment: 1. Understand social consequences. It helps us see how a project might change people's daily lives. 2. Protect communities. It makes sure people stay safe and their rights are respected. 3. Promote sustainable development. It encourages growth that benefits everyone, not just now but in the future too. 4. Support informed decision making. It gives leaders the right information so they can make wise and fair decisions. Key areas of social impact assessment: livelihood and employment. It looks at whether people will gain or lose jobs and income. 2. Health and safety. It checks if the project could improve or harm people's health and safety. 3. Culture and traditions. It respects local beliefs, costumes, and way of life. 4. Education and social services. It considered how schools, hospitals, and other services might be affected. For the conclusion, social impact assessment helps ensure the development projects benefits society while minimizing negative impacts on people and communities.
Natural Resources Management Planning. Natural resource management planning is a structured approach to sustainability managing resources like land, water, forest, wildlife, and minerals. It seeks to balance environmental protection with a social and economic development, especially as growing populations and human activities increase pressure from overuse, pollution, and climate change. Natural resource management planning is essential for sustaining the resources that support human life and economic activities. It promotes its responsible use and conservation to prevent environmental problems such as pollution, deforestation, and biodiversity loss. Its key goals are to protect ecosystems, ensure fair and sustainable resource use, and reduce environmental risk through planning, implementation, and monitoring. However, challenges like limited resources, low awareness, and climate change require strong policies and community involvement to overcome. In conclusion, natural resources management planning ensures the sustainable use and protection of natural resources by combining proper planning, assessment, and community involvement. It reduces environmental degradation, supports economic growth, preserves ecosystems, and safeguards resources for future generations. Effective implementation requires cooperation among governments, organizations, and individuals.
Natural resource conversion. Natural resource conversion and management, it explained that natural resources such as forest, water, soil, minerals, and biodiversity are essential for human survival and economic development. These resources provide basic needs like food, shelter, and energy, and they support livelihoods, especially in developing countries like the Philippines. However, due to rapid population growth and industrialization, deforestation, pollution, and climate change, many natural resources are being depleted and degraded. Natural resource conservation and management is important because it ensures that these resources are used responsible and sustainability. This means meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Focus on protecting ecosystem, maintaining biodiversity, and promoting sustainable practices such as reforestation, proper waste management, water conservation, and responsible mining. The importance of conserving natural resources for environmental stability and economic growth, management practices that promote sustainable use, and the challenges faced in conservation such as weak law enforcement, lack of awareness, and climate change impacts. Overall, the topic emphasizes that effective management and conservation are necessary to achieve sustainable development and protect the environment for future generations.
So, balancing economic development and environmental protection through planning. So, balancing economic development and environmental protection means ensuring that progress such as building industries, road, housing, and businesses does not destroy natural resources and ecosystems. In the Philippines, this balance is very important because the country relies heavily on agriculture, fisheries, forests, and coastal areas for people's livelihoods. Through proper planning, development can improve the economy while still protecting land, water, and communities for future generations. So, number one, we have the rule of planning in sustainable development. So, planning serves as guide for how land, resources, and infrastructures should be used. It helps determine where industries, residential areas, roads, and commercial centers should build while identifying areas that must be protected such as forests, waterheads, and coastal zones. When development is planned properly, it prevents problems such as illegal settlements in danger zones, destructions of natural habitats, and pollution of rivers and seas. Planning also ensures that projects follow environmental standards before they are approved. In this way, planning becomes a tool to support both economic growth and environmental safety. So, economic development and its environmental risk. Economic development creates jobs, increases income, and improves public services. New factories, tourism facilities, and infrastructures projects can help communities grow and reduce poverty. However, without careful planning, these activities can cause serious environmental damage. For example, poorly planned mining, deforestation, and large construction projects may lead to soil erosion, flooding, loss of wildfire, and water pollution. These environmental problems can eventually affect people's health, food supply, and safety. Therefore, development that ignores environmental protection can bring short-term benefits but long-term harm. Environmental protection as a support for the economy. Environmental protection is not a barrier to development. In fact, it helps sustain economic activities. Healthy forest protects water sources, reduce floods, and support agriculture. Clean coastal areas support fishing and tourism. Protected natural areas attract visitors and provide alternative income in communities. When planning considers environmental limits, it promotes sustainable industries such as ecotourism, renewable energy, and climate-resilient agriculture. These industries create jobs while maintaining the quality of the environment. Next, community participation and local planning. Local communities plays an important role in balancing development and environmental protection. Residents understand their own environments, risks, and needs. When communities are involved in planning processes, projects become more appropriate and acceptable. Public consultations, local development plans, and environmental reviews allow people to express concerns about possible negative impacts. These participations help prevent conflicts and ensures that development projects benefits the community without sacrificing environmental safety. Next, planning as long-term strategy. Effective planning looks beyond immediate economic gains. It considers population growth, climate risk, and future resource needs. By identifying hazard-prone areas, protecting natural ecosystem, and controlling land use, planners help reduce disasters and environmental debris. Long-term planning also supports resilience, especially in countries that frequently experiences typhoons, floods, and other climate-related hazards. Development that is guided by proper planning becomes safer, more exclusive, and more sustainable. So, balancing economic developments and environmental protection through planning is essential for sustainable progress in the Philippines. While development is necessary to improve living standards and economic opportunities, it must be guided by clear plans that protect natural resources and vulnerable communities. Through responsible land use planning, environmental assessments, and active community participation, development can move forward without sacrificing environmental integrity. Proper planning therefore ensures that economic growth and environmental protection supports each other rather than compete with one another.